Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Edit With Me. My name is Kelly. I'm going to be editing with you today, and we are going to be working on this super sweet boho baby, taking her from raw to ready. We're also going to be discussing growth and documenting that as an artist. Go ahead and grab a drink, get cozy, get ready to edit with me. Let's start. I am so glad that you are back to edit along with me today. We're going to be talking about business, encouragement, shooting, growth, and all of those things as we process this image. This session was a huge milestone for me. This was one of the first sessions in my career that the client had complete trust. I chose where we shot, when we shot, what they were wearing, what poses they were going to do, all of that. And literally they just showed up with nothing. I mean, not nothing on, but tank tops and buns in their hair. And I ran with it. So I wanted to kind of talk about growth because, sweet friend, years ago, that kind of freedom and creative license would have terrified me. I did not trust myself as a photographer in the very beginning. I relied heavily on Pinterest, on other artists, on what I thought I needed to shoot like. And to be able to create this content and these images completely out of my own brain, my own planning, and all of that, it means so much to me to be able to see that growth documented before my very eyes. I want to start with a quote today, and it says, "There is a past version of you that is so proud of how far you have come." And I feel like in our job, especially as creators, we do not spend near enough time thinking about our growth, measuring our progress, looking at where we've come from. We spend a lot of time comparing and working and striving and, getting frustrated because something's just not working out quite right. But we never take time to celebrate the growth that we've done. So before I jump into that today, I want to talk about what we're going to do to this image. Honestly, it is really cute straight out of camera. There's not a whole lot of changes I'm going to make. I'm just going to really knock up the color and the vibrancy and the lighting a little bit. So I'm actually going to be processing this image by hand today, no presets or anything. I want to encourage you, if this is your first time here, I want you to get to know your editing by hand. Yes, using presets is a wonderful thing, but it's not the only thing. I want you to become so confident in your editing tools, sweet friend, that you can process any image exactly how you want, no matter what the raw looks like, and still get great reproducible results. So for that reason, we're going to be editing this image completely raw, no preset, no anything today. I want you to, like we usually do, study this image and tell me 3 things that you would perfect. The reason I do this is I want you to get comfortable looking at a blank page, so to speak, and knowing how to take action right away. There's another little growth point, okay? We're going to talk about 5 pillars of growth in you, in your perspective, in your business that are important. So the first one is pushing through the blank page fear. Everybody does it. It happens to everyone, okay? I shot an image or shot a session, get home, put it on my computer, and I stare and I go, "Oh my gosh, what did the light look like? What did the shadows look like? What was the tone? What was that wall really white?" It happens to the best of us, but in order to develop growth, you need to start gaining confidence in every aspect of your business. So the first one we're going to talk about is What would you do to change this image? Fire it off right away. I want to make it bolder. I want to increase the radial light, and I want to work on these plants right here. Okay, so instead of sitting here hemming and hawing about what I want to do, I've got direction. Let's move. Second growth point, trusting your instincts. There is a reason you picked up that camera in the first place, sweet friend. Trust your instincts. Don't waste your time questioning. It's only art. It's only a session. It's only a day. Just get it done, okay? So we're going to start. I'm going to come down here and make my mass adjustments first. If you've been around for a long time, you know that I remove chromatic aberration, which that is the bleed through between two colors. If you're still not sure what that means, go ahead and pause me and take a quick tour of Google to figure it out. I like to add texture to my images, but I like to reduce the clarity. I'm not a huge fan of super crispy images. Now, if you're a brand new editor and you are not sure what all of these slides mean, in about a week, I'm going to be making a for the very new beginner video, and it will go through in a little bit more depth about what this stuff does. If you're ever unsure about what effect your editing does, grab your slider, drag it all the way down, and push it all the way up. Okay, and that'll give you a good idea of what that slider does and the effect that it has. I'm going to dehaze this quite a bit because I want the colors to be vibrant and sharp and pop. And I'm going to add a little bit of grain. I usually do between 3 and 7 on the image, depending on, what I'm shooting. All right, now I'm going to start working on color. We are doing this from scratch. That's part of growth. I don't want you to rely on presets. Please, please, please hear me, my sweet friend. I don't want you to rely on presets. If you're going to use them to develop consistency in your work, awesome. But I don't want you to rely on them. You do not need presets. You do not need another artist telling you what your images should look like, okay? Hear me. I hope you hear me. All right. I am going to just zoom through this. This is not an instructional video by any means. This is encouraging, entertaining. I don't want to do step by step because each of us is going to do a different process, right? But I will stop as I go and kind of explain what I'm doing for you. And actually, once I adjusted my contrast, I didn't like the way yes, much better. Okay, perfect. All right. Before I get to chatting, I'm just going to kind of explain what I'm doing here. I rely very heavily on radial filters to bring emphasis to the middle of my images, to the subjects. I usually will increase exposure and contrast and mess with my color here. Oh, that's awesome. It's looking really good already. Okay, I'm going to toggle between before and after already. And that's before we even do any color touching or anything. Okay, now these greens are starting back here to get a little bit neon. I don't want that. So I'm going to come down here to my color mixer and I'm going to select the green hue and I'm going to play in my greens until I'm satisfied with them. I want to remove, that's a little bit too minty. I want to remove a lot of that neon hue. There we go. Oh, that's so much better. So much better. Okay, now I'll show you before and after. And we're not even done here, but look how far we've come already with just tiny little changes, okay? All right, I'm going to add a little bit more warmth into this image, just a touch, just a touch. There we go. And I'm going to pull it into Photoshop. While we're waiting for that to open up in Photoshop, I want to talk about you. What was the first image you ever took? Was it terrible? Was it with a phone or was it with a camera? Mine, my first quote unquote official professional photography job was my niece when she was born. She was 4 weeks old. I did her newborn session. It was terrible. It was terrible. I put her in a leopard print tutu because that's what was popular 8 years ago. And I'm not a fan of showing them off to anybody, but I also realize that we are in a wonderful opportunity to open ourselves up and be vulnerable and talk about our growth as creators. One of the great things that your clients love to see is your growth and how far you've come, right? I get comments weekly from people saying, it's been so amazing to watch you grow. And in this day and age of striving for perfection, a lot of people are scared to show their starting point because they think that people aren't going to trust them if they had terrible work. Okay? That's just simply not true. I actually find it to be the opposite. If I have a record of my past, people start to see me as an established photographer. If I keep deleting everything I'm embarrassed of, and they only ever see the last 6 months of my work, that makes me lose credibility. Yes, my social media feed is beautiful and, cohesive. But if I'm a client and the first post my photographer has is 3 months ago or 4 months ago when they changed presets, but nobody actually knows that they did that, I'm gonna get pause there, guys. But if I see that my photographer has gradually changed over 5 or 6 years, that gives me a lot more confidence in them as a shooter, right? And you have to think about that. Yes, your feed or your website or your portfolio is not going to be beautiful and cohesive if you have 10 years of growth in there. But it is going to establish you as an expert, and it is going to give you history, and it is going to show that you are constantly striving to get better. And that's what people want to see. All right, I'm going to stop talking for just a minute here. I'm going to tell you my plan for this image. It's looking really, really good so far, but I am going to just clean up the sand a little bit. I'm going to remove this tag. I'm going to bring a little bit more emphasis on the baby. I'm going to sharpen it up a little bit. And I'm actually going to play in these sunflowers right here, just a little tiny bit. Okay. So I'm going to kind of tell you what I'm doing here. I am going to run portraiture first on this. And there's a whole bunch of ways to run this. You want to make sure that when you're running it, you don't do it too intense so that the baby looks plastic. Nobody wants a plastic baby. But what it does is it smooths out imperfections in the skin and it gives it kind of a polished look. At least for me it does. Do you see? The change is very gradual, but it's just enough to make it look really, really streamlined. I'm going to come in here and I am going to actually use a new action called Naturally Rich. And I am so sorry, but for the life of me, I cannot remember where I got it from. I'll try and look, and if I can, I'll put it in the description. But don't be scared when this takes effect. It is extremely intense, but I'm going to show you how to change things in Photoshop to get the outcome that you like. Now, the reason I love this Naturally Rich action is once I adjust it, it makes the colors pop off the screen. Now watch, it's going to take effect, and you're going to go, whoa, 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 whoa. Come on, come on. Right? That's not what we want at all. So I am going to work my way up on this action. I am going to leave the color lift for now, but I am going to unshow the contrast, unshow the tones, unshow the richness, and keep my deeper colors. Okay? So I'm going to come in here and my color lift. You see the opacity is only 20%. I'm going to lift that up a little bit more to, I don't know, 40 looks good, maybe 41. And then I'm going to come in here and I am going to go to deeper colors. That's 80 and I don't want that insane of an effect. I'm going to pull that down slightly to maybe 34. Now, I don't want the rest of these for this particular image. I don't want to increase my contrast. I'm very happy with the way it came out. I don't want to change my tones here. I could if I wanted to mess with those, but I'm just going to flatten. And I'm going to say flatten, and it says discard hidden layers. The ones without the eye are all hidden, and I don't want to use those, right? So I say okay. And that gives me just enough of a touch to make a difference. And while that's flattening, I want to encourage you to start a growth portfolio. One of the ways I like to show my growth is I'll do an Instagram story every once in a while, and I will show like where I came from, I will show like one of my first images and then one that I'm really proud of now. And I'll talk about the growth that I've gotten and how proud of myself I am and all of those things. And I feel like when you do that, when you're vulnerable with your audience and you're vulnerable with people, they are going to start really trusting you as a creator, and they're going to go, oh my gosh, that person is so open and real and vulnerable, and I love how honest they are. And it shows that you haven't always been perfect. Nobody wants perfection. They want somebody who is on their journey, who's striving, who's working, who's learning every day. I'm just adding a little bit more of that darker green in here. And I'm going to be very, very gentle with that. But I want to add a little bit more depth and richness into these flowers. Now, when you're using your paintbrush, you have to be really careful because it just paints on flat. It doesn't give texture. That's why I use it at 55 or below. Okay. All right. That looks awesome to me. I think I'm going to start working on the sand now. So I'm going to come in here with my healing brush, and then I'm going to clone out whatever I can't heal. I don't want to get rid of everything. Because obviously I like there to be some actual real texture here, but I'm just going to get rid of the things that are very distracting to my eye. Now, you and I might have different examples of what's distracting. Some people love smooth sand and it just bothers them if it isn't. But we're in the middle of the field. We're not on a beach. So, I expect there to be some detritus here and there. I'm just going to get rid of the things that really I'm drawn to, like this darkness behind the baby. I want her to kind of stand out. There we go. And I'm just going to get rid of little tiny things here. And actually, I'm going to even get rid of this little petal here because I feel like it's distracting from her foot. Personal preference, obviously, but there we go. Okay. Oh, that's looking awesome. And I didn't even have to clone anything. All right, let's smart sharpen this baby up. So anyway, as I was saying, don't be afraid to show your growth. That is mega huge for impacting others in a positive way. Think about how impactful it would have been if Vincent van Gogh, for example, had social media and he started blogging or documenting in the very beginning of his career. Imagine how impactful it would be to see his work side by side, where he started and where he ended. I mean, that would just be so amazing. We have the opportunity to do that, but we're not doing it because we're nervous or scared of being vulnerable. That's just crazy. Embrace the vulnerability. That gives you so much more, to me, so much more street cred in our community. If you can be openly vulnerable about where you've come, that's going to mean so much more. Okay, now pulling this into Lightroom, I'm noticing something I really don't like. Do you see it? It's slightly yellower than I had planned on. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to make it, oh, not cool. I'm going to take a little bit of saturation out, like the tiniest bit, increase my vibrancy, and add a little bit of magenta here. That fixed it. All right, let's look at the beginning and the after here, guys. Here was our original image, and there's our after. Raw and ready. I'm going to do one more little touch before I call this done and dusted. I'm going to come here on the baby. I'm going to increase the texture a teeny tiny bit on her and decrease the clarity. And that smooths her skin just so beautifully. Add a little bit of magenta. Pull down the exposure a teeny tiny bit. All right, the last step I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this rust here in this blanket a little bit. I am going to increase my saturation, increase my dehaze, and increase my texture. And I'm going to come and just paint on this blanket. I want the color to really pop out of there. Did you see what I just noticed? I forgot to take the tag out. I told you I was going to, and I completely forgot. We'll try in Lightroom. Hopefully it'll work. All right, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to make that warmer and more purple. There we go. Okay, now I'll show you the before with our change. See how yellow it is? We took the yellow out of the baby skin. Now let's see if I can get this to work in Lightroom. A lot of times this does not work in Lightroom and I have to go back into Photoshop, but that's okay. That's another thing about your growth, guys. Oh, see what I mean? I can move this sample, but it may not work here. I want it to be realistic, right? Okay, that's not going to work for me. If you're a magician in Lightroom and you know how to make that work, please tell me in the comments below. But if you're not, we're going to go back into Photoshop because I want this to be perfect for you guys. I don't want this to be sloppy. Anyway, that's another thing about growth. So our first one was establish your eye, right? Second one was come from a vulnerable place. Third one, know what you can do and what you can't do. New photographers don't know what they can't do. They don't know their limits. They try all the things, right? As you grow and as a creator, you start to know your limits. You start to understand, I can do that, I can't do that. I can bring back the sky, I can't bring back the sky. I do want to shoot senior sessions, I don't want to shoot senior sessions. It's having the confidence to know what you can and cannot do. So that's number 3. Number 4 for growth, you are not afraid to raise other people up. A lot of photographers in their journey, when they're first new, they are worried to raise other people up. I don't know why that is. Maybe you can explain it to me, but it definitely does not make any sense to me. But they're afraid to raise other people up. I don't know if it's a competitive thing or what, but you'll see the further along a photographer gets in their career, the more interested they become in encouraging others. And it's a really strange phenomenon, but I believe that that comes with confidence in who you are as a creator. The 5th thing about growth is when you look from where you've come, you can celebrate the work, but you can plan for your future. If we are just allowing ourselves and our growth to be stagnant and not be learning and taking in everything we can all the time, we will never be better than what we are today. My hope for myself and for you, sweet friend, is that every single day you're a little bit better. And it doesn't have to be in your talent or your editing skills. It may just be in your perspective or your life knowledge or your experience in dealing with clients. My goal for us is that every single day we're just the tiniest bit of a better version of ourselves. And that is what makes growth so important. All right, guys, this image is done. I hope you've enjoyed spending time with me. I know I've enjoyed spending time with you. I hope that you have a wonderful week, that your children behave. If you don't have children, that your pets or your spouse behaves. I hope that your calendar is full to bursting with wonderful, happy, joyful clients, and that you find enough time to sneak that coffee in whenever you need it. Don't forget, you are loved. You are worthy. You are valuable, and the world needs your lens. Until next time, friends, have a